The ceremonial gong shook dust from the ancient stone walls of the Imperial War Academy. Prince Rethian felt his stomach twist into knots as hundreds of cadets marched through the entrance courtyard. Every dragon around him stood tall and proud, their scales gleaming in the morning light. Their confidence radiated like heat from volcanic vents. Rethian tried to match their posture, but his wings trembled despite his best efforts. 10,000 years of military dominance had built the Draconid Empire into the most feared force in the galactic sector. Every royal child learned to fight before they learned to read. Every noble family measured worth in battle scars and conquest medals. Rethian had neither. At 20 cycles old, he should have been a rising warrior. Instead, he was ashamed his family tried to hide. The problem was simple and devastating. When combat began, Rethian froze. His fire would not ignite. His claws would not strike. Some deep part of his brain simply refused to engage in violence. Therapists called it a neurological anomaly. His brothers called it cowardice. His mother, Empress Valsha, called it unacceptable. This academy was his last chance. Either he would overcome his weakness here, or his family would strip his royal title and exile him to some forgotten colony world. The thought of that future made his chest ache worse than any physical wound could. The headmaster, an ancient dragon named Korthas, stood on the elevated platform above the assembly. His scales bore the white scars of 1,000 battles. When he spoke, even the wind seemed to quiet in respect. You stand here because you are the finest young warriors in the Empire. Most of you will fail the trials ahead. Only the strongest will earn your officer marks and join the Imperial fleet. Pain will test you. Fear will test you. Blood will test you. Those who survive will become legends. Rethian tried to steady his breathing. Around him, cadets roared approval. Their enthusiasm felt like a physical force pushing against him. Then Korthas said something that made the entire courtyard fall silent. This year, we welcome our first cadet from Earth. As part of the new Alliance Treaty, humanity has sent one of their military graduates to train alongside you. Remember that our empire values strength, and we will see if these humans possess any worth beyond their diplomatic papers. Murmurs rippled through the assembled dragons. Rethian had heard of humans. Small creatures from a death world at the edge of settled space. Their planet rotated too fast. Their gravity crushed most species, and their sun blasted them with radiation that would sterilize gentler worlds. Yet somehow they had survived and built a modest interstellar presence. The figure walked through the academy gates. Every dragon, I turned to study him. Daniel Reed looked impossibly small compared to the towering reptilian forms around him. He stood barely as tall as a dragon's shoulder. His skin held none of the protective scales or natural armor that marked proper warriors. He wore a simple gray uniform that seemed inadequate for someone about to enter combat training. But he walked with steady steps, his eyes taking in everything without showing fear or hesitation. The other cadets started laughing. Not polite chuckles, but full roaring mockery. "They sent us a snack, not a soldier," someone shouted. "Look at those tiny limbs. How will it even lift a training blade? This is what counts as strong on their world." Pathetic. Daniel showed no reaction. He simply took his place in the formation, standing straight despite being surrounded by creatures that could tear him apart without effort. Korthas raised a clawed hand for silence. Enough. This human earned his place through their military trials. If he survives ours, he will have proven something none of you can claim. Until then, show proper respect to a fellow cadet. The mockery quieted to sullen mutterings. Korthas continued. All cadets will be assigned partners for the duration of training. You will complete every trial as a pair. Your partner's failures become your failures. Their victories become yours. We do this because war is not fought alone. Even a mightiest warrior needs someone watching their back. A holographic display flickered to life above the assembly, showing name pairings. Rethian watched with growing dread as names appeared. Strong warriors paired with other strong warriors. Promising cadets matched with those of equal skill. Then his name appeared. Prince Rethian paired with Daniel Reed. The courtyard exploded with laughter again. Someone shouted that the academy had matched the two weakest cadets together so they would not drag down anyone useful. Others suggested it was a mercy, letting them fail together quickly. Rethian felt heat rise in his face, the shame burning hotter than any fire he had failed to breathe. This was worse than he had imagined. Not only would he fail, but he would fail while dragging down an outsider who had already traveled across the stars to be here. Daniel walked over to where Rethian stood. The human had to look up significantly to meet the dragon's eyes. For a long moment, they simply studied each other. Then Daniel extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. I guess we are partners. I am Daniel. People call me Dan. Rethian stared at the offered hand. Custom demanded he acknowledge the greeting, even though partnership with this tiny creature meant guaranteed failure. Slowly, carefully, he extended one clawed hand and gently grasped the human's much smaller one. I am Prince Rethian, though I doubt the title will matter much longer. Daniel's expression remained neutral. Why do you say that? Because I cannot fight, and you are too small to fight. We will both fail within the first week. Something changed in the human's eyes then. Not pity, not fear, but something else. Something calculating. Maybe, Daniel said quietly. Or maybe we just need to figure out what fighting actually means. Before Rethian could ask what that meant, Korthas announced their first trial would begin tomorrow at dawn in the volcanic training grounds. Survival combat against wild predators. No weapons, no assistance. Just two partners against a hostile environment designed to kill the weak. Rethian felt the familiar panic rising in his chest. Tomorrow would expose everything he lacked. Tomorrow would end any hope he had left. Daniel was still watching him with those strange, calculating eyes. Meet me tonight at the equipment yard, the human said. Before we fail, we should at least try something different. Then he walked away, leaving Rethian standing alone in the courtyard, wondering what a tiny human could possibly do to change the inevitable. Darkness had settled over the academy grounds when Rethian made his way to the equipment yard. Twin moons cast silver light across training dummies and weapon racks. He found Daniel sitting on a storage crate, studying a datapad that displayed the volcanic region where their trial would take place. The human looked up as Rethian approached. Good. You came. I was not certain you would. I came because I have nothing to lose, Rethian said bitterly. Tomorrow I will freeze like I always do. The predators will tear us apart, or I will fail to defend you, and everyone will know what I truly am. A broken prince who cannot even manage the most basic dragon instinct. Daniel set down the datapad. Tell me exactly what happens when you try to fight. Rethian sat heavily, his tail curling around his feet. No one had ever asked for details before. They simply judged the result. When violence begins, my body stops responding. My mind screams at my claws to strike, but they will not move. My fire glands feel like ice instead of flame. I see the attacks coming, I know what I should do, but I cannot make myself do it. Other dragons say I am afraid, but it feels different than fear. It feels like my body refuses to obey my commands. But you see the attacks coming, Daniel repeated. You know what you should do. Before it happens. Yes, always. I can predict movement patterns, calculate strike angles, identify weak points in defenses. The knowledge is there. The execution is not. Daniel stood and began pacing. On Earth, we have many types of soldiers. Not all of them fight directly. Some repair equipment. Some plan strategy. Some coordinate troops. Some gather intelligence. All of them are essential to victory. The Draconid Way values only those who fight, Rethian said. Everything else is support work for lesser species. Then the Draconid Way is inefficient, Daniel said bluntly. You have skills that are being wasted because your culture only recognizes one type of strength. Rethian felt a spark of anger. You are human. You know nothing of our culture. I know that tomorrow we face predators in volcanic terrain. I know that I am small and lack your natural armor. I know that I can fight, but I cannot see threats from all directions at once. And I know that you can see those threats perfectly, you just cannot strike them yourself. Daniel stopped pacing and looked directly at Rethian. So we do not ask you to strike them. We ask you to be my eyes and my mind. You tell me what is coming and where to hit. I do the hitting. That is not how trials work. Both partners must fight. The rules say both partners must survive the trial and eliminate threats. They do not specify how. If we return alive and the predators are dead, we pass. Daniel picked up 2 training blades from a nearby rack. He tossed one to Rethian, who caught it reflexively. Show me what you see when combat starts. Not what you do. What you see. Rethian held the blade, awkwardly. I do not understand. Pretend I'm a predator attacking you. Do not fight back. Just tell me what you observe. Daniel moved into an attack stance and lunged forward. Rethian's body locked up immediately, the familiar paralysis gripping him. But his mind remained sharp and clear. Your left shoulder drops before you commit to the strike, Rethian heard himself saying. Your weight shifts to your right foot, creating instability. If someone struck your right knee at the moment of full extension, you would collapse. Your blade angle exposes your torso between the second and third rib. Daniel stopped mid-strike. You saw all that in 1 second. Yes, I always do, but I cannot move to exploit any of it. A strange expression crossed the human's face. You do not need to move. You just need to tell someone else who can. Try this. Close your eyes and keep talking. Tell me everything you sense about my position and movement. Rethian closed his eyes, feeling ridiculous. But he focused on the sounds, the air currents, the vibrations through the stone ground. You're moving to my left side. 3 steps. Your breathing has increased slightly. You are preparing another attack from a lower angle, probably targeting my legs since your first high strike failed. Perfect. Daniel's voice came from exactly where Rethian predicted. Now tell me when and where to strike you. Use me as your weapon. What? Imagine I am your claws, your fire, your tail. You cannot make them move yourself, but what if you could tell them where to go? Understanding began to dawn. Rethian kept his eyes closed and extended his awareness. Move forward 2 steps. Duck under the height of my wings. Strike upward at my chest where the scales are weakest. He felt Daniel move exactly as instructed, the training blade touching the precise, vulnerable spot. Again, Daniel said, they practiced for hours. Rethian called out movements, angles, timing. Daniel followed the instructions with increasing precision. It felt wrong at first, so contrary to everything Rethian had been taught about proper dragon combat. But it also felt natural in a way actual fighting never had. His mind was finally being used for what it was good at, not forced into a role it could never fill that as the moons reached their peak, Daniel called a halt. They were both exhausted, but something had shifted between them. Tomorrow in the volcanic grounds, you do not fight, Daniel said firmly. You guide, you warn, you calculate. I follow your instructions and handle the actual combat. If this works, we survive. If it fails, we fail together, but at least we tried something different than just waiting to die. Rethian wanted to argue, wanted to say that real warriors did not hide behind others, wanted to claim he could overcome his weakness through pure determination. But he had tried all of that for years, and it had never worked. Why are you helping me? Rethian asked instead. You could have requested a different partner, a stronger one. Instead, you are gambling your life on a plan built around my weakness. Daniel shrugged. Because strength comes in different forms, and your people are too stubborn to see it. Also, I did not travel across the galaxy just to die because I was too proud to try a new approach. They parted ways as the first hint of dawn touched the horizon. In a few hours, the trial would begin. Rethian returned to his quarters, his mind racing with possibilities. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt something other than dread about combat. Perhaps the human was right. Perhaps there were many ways to be strong. Tomorrow they would discover if the Draconid Empire was ready to accept that truth. Heat waves shimmered above black volcanic stone as the transport dropped 12 pairs of cadets into the training grounds. Rethian felt the familiar tightness in his chest as he looked across the barren landscape. Jagged rocks jutted from hardened lava flows. Steam vents hissed poison into the air. Somewhere in this hostile terrain, predators waited. The rules were simple. Survive for 6 hours. Eliminate any threats encountered. Return to the extraction point alive. Fail any part of this, and you've failed the Academy. Other teams spread out immediately, each pair seeking advantageous positions. Dragon cadets moved with confidence born from generations of warrior breeding. Their natural advantages were obvious here. Heat resistance, armored scales, flight capability, claws, and fire. Daniel carried only a basic plasma knife. His human body lacked any natural weapons or protections. In theory, Rethian should have been the dangerous one in their partnership. In reality, he was the liability. "Talk to me," Daniel said quietly as they moved away from the other teams. "What do you see?" Rethian forced himself to focus beyond his anxiety. His senses expanded, taking in details most dragons ignored in their rush to fight. 3 heat signatures moving parallel to us, 60 meters north. Likely razor spine lizards hunting as a pack. Wind is shifting from the east, carrying our scent toward them. They will detect us in approximately 90 seconds. Can we avoid them? Not without entering the territory of something larger. I detect deep vibrations from the west, probably a stone burrower, adult-sized. Then we handle the lizards. How? This was the moment. Either their practice would translate to real danger, or they would both die, proving dragon tradition correct. Rethian pushed down his fear and let his mind work the way it was built to work. The lizards will split up and try to flank us. Their scales are weak at the throat and underbelly. They attack in sequence, never all at once. Watch the lead lizard's eyes. When it blinks twice rapidly, the others will strike from behind. Understood. Anything else? Stay close to me. They fear fire, even if I cannot produce it on command. My presence alone may make them hesitate. The razor spine lizards emerged from behind volcanic rocks, exactly where Rethian predicted. 3 lean predators with obsidian scales and tails lined with bone spikes. They circled the pair, hungry and confident that Rethian's body locked up. His claws would not extend. His fire glands remained cold. The paralysis came as it always did. But this time, instead of fighting it, he accepted it and focused on what he could do. Lead lizard moving to your left. Secondary preparing to rush from behind. Third staying back as reserve. The leader will feint twice before committing to real strike. Ignore the feints. On the third movement, drop low and strike upward at its throat. Daniel moved exactly as instructed. The lead lizard lunged twice, testing. Daniel did not react to either. On the third lunge, he dropped beneath the snapping jaws and drove his plasma knife upward into the soft throat tissue. The creature collapsed, dead before it hit the ground. Second lizard charging from behind, for seconds to contact. Spin right, use the first one's body as a shield. Daniel moved. The attacking lizard crashed into its dead packmate instead of the human. Before it could recover, Rethian called the next move. Strike the spine base where the tail connects. Now, the plasma knife found the weak point. The second predator went down, thrashing. The third lizard fled, deciding survival meant more than a meal. Daniel stood breathing hard, blood and plasma burns marking his uniform. That worked better than I expected. The day is not finished, Rethian said, his body relaxing now that immediate danger had passed. I detect movement from multiple directions. Other teams are engaging threats, which would drive more predators toward us. They moved deeper into the volcanic terrain. Again and again, Rethian's predictions proved accurate. He guided Daniel away from unstable ground that would have collapsed. He warned of ambush points where cave serpents waited. He identified which steam vents were merely hot and which released toxic compounds that would kill even dragons. When a territorial stone burrower emerged from underground, Rethian calculated its attack patterns and timing. Daniel struck only when and where Rethian indicated, conserving energy and avoiding the creature's heavily armored sections. They brought it down without either of them taking serious injury. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, turning the volcanic field into an oven. Other teams struggled. Some called for emergency extraction after injuries. Some were fighting battles they could have avoided with better information. Rethian and Daniel encountered one more serious threat before the extraction time. A fire drake distant cousin to dragons, but far more aggressive and less intelligent. It was wounded, which made it even more dangerous. Cornered animals fought with desperate ferocity. This one will not be simple, Rethian warned. It is in pain and will not retreat. Its fire is still functional. My scales can withstand the heat, but yours cannot. Then we use your scales. Tell me how. Rethian's mind raced through possibilities. Position yourself behind me. Use me as a mobile shield. When it breathes fire, I will absorb the flame. During the cool-down period between breaths, strike from around my side at the wound on its left flank. 3 strikes should be enough to bring it down. You're asking me to hide behind you while you take damage meant for me. I am asking you to let me protect you the only way I can. This is my strength. Let me use it. The fire drake attacked. Flames washed over Rethian's scales, hot enough to make him grit his teeth, but not hot enough to penetrate dragon hide. He held position, sheltering Daniel. The moment the flames stopped, Daniel struck from around Rethian's left side, his plasma knife cutting deep into the wounded flank. 3 precise strikes, exactly as predicted. The drake collapsed. When the extraction transport arrived, Rethian and Daniel were both still standing. Exhausted, burned, bleeding in places but alive and successful. They had eliminated 6 threats and survived 6 hours in terrain designed to kill the weak. The transport pilot, an older dragon instructor, studied them with an unreadable expression. Most impressive partnership work I have seen in years. Whatever you two are doing, keep doing it. As they flew back to the academy, Rethian allowed himself a moment of hope. Maybe this could actually work. Maybe there was a place for someone like him after all. That hope lasted until they landed and saw Prince Gorith waiting for them with murder in his eyes. Prince Gorith stood in the academy courtyard, surrounded by his supporters. He was everything Rethian was not. Massive, aggressive, covered in battle scars despite his young age. His scales were dark red, marking him as descended from the old warrior bloodlines. Where Rethian was third son and often forgotten, Gorith was firstborn and constantly celebrated. Cousin, Gorith's voice carried across the courtyard. I watch your trial results. You and your pet human scored in the top rankings. How curious. Rethian felt Daniel tense beside him. Other cadets were gathering, sensing confrontation. This was entertainment for them. 2 royals facing off, one disgraced and one celebrated. We completed the trial as required, Rethian said carefully. Nothing more. Nothing more. Gorith laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You hid behind your partner while he did the actual fighting. You cowered and gave instructions like some soft administrator. That is not the Draconid way. It worked, Daniel said quietly. We survived and eliminated threats. That was the objective. Gorith's eyes fixed on the human with pure contempt. You speak when not addressed, little mammal. Perhaps you have not learned proper respect yet. Or perhaps my cousin has been teaching you bad habits along with bad combat techniques. There is no dishonor in what we did, Rethian said, trying to keep his voice steady. Partnership means using each other's strengths. Partnership means 2 warriors fighting side by side, not 1 warrior dragging dead weight. Gorith stepped closer. You disgrace our bloodline, Rethian. You always have. But now you are spreading that disgrace by convincing others that your cowardice is somehow acceptable. The crowd murmured agreement. Even some instructors who had gathered to watch looked uncertain. Traditional methods had served the Empire for millennia. What Rethian and Daniel had done might have been effective, but it challenged fundamental beliefs about dragon nature. If you doubt our method, then test it, Daniel said. His voice remained calm, but something hard had entered his tone. Formal challenge. Your partnership against ours. If we lose, you prove your point. If we win, you accept that different approaches have value. Gorith's eyes lit up with vicious pleasure. A formal challenge. Yes. Perfect. This will end your academy career before it truly begins, cousin. And your human will learn what happens to those who forget their place. Headmaster Korthas emerged from the crowd. The ancient dragon's presence commanded instant silence. You would invoke formal challenge rights? This is a serious matter. Both partnerships would be at risk. I accept that risk, Gorith said. My partner is Dravik of the Ironscale clan. We fear no opponent, especially not these two. Dravik stepped forward, a massive Kravik warrior built like a boulder with legs. His species served as heavy infantry in the Imperial forces. Where dragons had flight and fire, Kraviks had raw crushing power and nearly impenetrable stone-like skin. Together, Gorith and Dravik represented overwhelming combat superiority. And you, Prince Rethian? Korthas asked, do you accept this challenge? Rethian wanted to refuse, wanted to walk away. Every instinct screamed that this would end in humiliation or death. But Daniel's hand touched his arm briefly, a gesture of support. I accept, Rethian heard himself say. Korthas nodded gravely. Then it is recorded. The challenge will take place tomorrow at noon in the main arena. Standard duel rules apply. Fight until one partnership yields or cannot continue. Lethal force is permitted but discouraged. The entire academy will bear witness. The crowd erupted in excited chatter. This was unprecedented. Royal blood challenging royal blood in formal combat. The broken prince and his strange human against proven warriors. Everyone want to watch this. That night, Rethian could not sleep. He paced his quarters, wings drooping with anxiety. They had succeeded in the volcanic trial because they faced predictable predators. But intelligent opponents who could adapt and strategize? That was different. And Gorith was not stupid, just traditional. He would be studying their methods, planning counters that a knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Daniel entered without waiting for permission. You should be resting, Rethian said. So should you, but here we both are. Daniel sat on the stone bench that served as furniture in dragon quarters. You are worried? Of course I am worried. Gorith wants to destroy me. He will not hold back. And Dravik could literally crush you with one hand. Probably, Daniel agreed. So we do not let him get his hands on me. Same as the volcanic trial. You see the threats coming. You guide me around them. I strike when and where you indicate. But they will expect that now. They know our method. Knowing and countering are different things. Answer me this. When you watch combat, can you predict what both sides will do? Rethian considered. Yes. Usually, most fighters fall into patterns. They have favorite techniques, preferred angles of attack, instinctive responses to specific situations. Then you see their moves before they make them. That is an advantage they cannot overcome through raw strength. No matter how strong Gorith is, he cannot hit what he cannot catch. No matter how tough Dravik is, he has vulnerable points that can be exploited. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. We do what we are good at. They will do what they are good at. The question is whose strengths matter more in that arena. Daniel stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we show the entire academy that their traditions are not the only path to victory. After Daniel left, Rethian did manage a few hours of rest. His dreams were filled with fire and blood, but also with strange new possibilities. Maybe the human was right. Maybe they could win this. Or maybe tomorrow would prove that the old ways were old because they worked, and attempting to change them was just arrogance. Dawn came too quickly. Word had spread beyond the academy. Imperial officials were arriving to witness the duel. Rethian's mother was among them. Empress Valsha sat in the royal observation box, her face unreadable as stone. Rethian stood at the arena entrance with Daniel beside him. Across the sand, Gorith and Dravik waited, both eager for violence. Korthas' voice echoed through the arena. Let the formal challenge begin. Fight with honor. Show us the meaning of strength. The gates opened. Rethian and Daniel stepped into the arena, and everything Rethian had feared and hoped for came down to the next few minutes. Either they would revolutionize Draconid combat doctrine, or they would die proving tradition right. His body was already starting to lock up, but his mind remained clear and sharp. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough. Sand crunched under their feet as Rethian and Daniel moved to their starting position. The arena was ancient, built from volcanic stone and reinforced with metal alloys that could withstand dragon fire. Thousands of battles had been fought here over the centuries. Blood had soaked into the sand so many times that patches of it had fused into dark glass. Gorith and Dravik stood 40 meters away, radiating confidence. Dravik's stone skin gleamed dull gray in the afternoon sun. Gorith's scales rippled red and black. His wings spread wide in an intimidation display. The message was clear. They were predators. Rethian and Daniel were prey. "Stay within 2 meters of me at all times," Rethian said quietly. "I need to be able to shield you if necessary." "Understood." "Start calling their moves the moment you see them forming." The signal horn blasted. The duel had begun. Gorith launched himself into the air immediately, using his natural advantage. He would attack from above, while Dravik charged from the ground. Classic Draconid partnership tactics. Overwhelming force from multiple angles, but Rethian saw the pattern forming before it completed. Gorith will dive in 7 seconds, targeting you from the northeast. Dravik is building momentum for a crushing charge. Let them commit, then shift left 3 steps on my signal. Dravik thundered forward, the ground shaking under his massive weight. Gorith folded his wings in dove, claws extended, fire building in his throat. The 2 attacks would converge on Daniel's position simultaneously. "Now," Rethian said. Daniel shifted left exactly 3 steps. Gorith's dive and Dravik's charge met at empty space. The Kravik warrior could not stop his momentum. Gorith had to abort his attack pattern to avoid colliding with his own partner. Both lost precious seconds recovering. Gorith is vulnerable for 4 seconds while he regains altitude. Circle right, stay low. Dravik will turn, but his mass makes quick direction changes difficult. Stay inside his turning radius. Daniel moved like flowing water, always just beyond reach. When Dravik swung a massive fist, Rethian called the timing and Daniel was already gone. When Gorith breathed fire, Rethian positioned himself to absorb it, his scales protecting them both. The crowd began to murmur. This was not what they expected. Where was the glorious combat? Where were the devastating exchanges of power? Instead, they were watching something that looked almost like a dance, with Daniel moving in patterns that made no sense until you realized he was never where the attacks landed. "They are adjusting," Rethian warned. "Gorith is learning our timing. Next dive will be faster and from a different angle. Dravik is trying to corner us against the wall. We need to change approach. What do you recommend?" Rethian's mind calculated a dozen possibilities in an instant. "We stop defending and start attacking. When Gorith dives next, do not dodge. Wait for him." "That seems like terrible advice." "Trust me." Gorith came in fast and low, talons reaching for Daniel. The human stood his ground. At the last possible instant, Rethian stepped between them, catching his cousin's claws against his own scales. The impact drove him back, but did no real damage. More importantly, it put Gorith on the ground, temporarily grounded. "Strike his left wing joint." Now, Daniel's plasma knife flashed out, cutting the vulnerable membrane where wing connected a body. Gorith roared in pain and fury. His flight was not completely disabled, but it was severely compromised. Suddenly, the aerial advantage was gone. Dravik charged again, enraged at seeing his partner injured. But Rethian read the attack forming. He is leading with his right shoulder. His left side is momentarily exposed. Slide under his arm. Strike the nerve cluster at his hip. Daniel moved exactly as directed. The plasma knife found the weak point. Dravik's left leg buckled briefly. Not enough to bring him down, but enough to slow him. They were winning. Actually winning. Not through superior strength, but through superior information and execution. Every move Rethian predicted. Every strike Daniel delivered exactly where and when needed. It was working against intelligent opponents, just as it had worked against mindless predators. Gorith realized it too. His eyes showed something new. Not contempt anymore. Fear. He was being defeated by the cousin he had always dismissed as worthless. Worse, he was being defeated in front of the Empress and the entire Academy using methods that violated everything he believed about proper combat. That fear made him desperate, and desperate opponents were the most dangerous. "He is going to use his full fire," Rethian warned. "Not targeted breath, but wide area saturation. He would rather burn us both, even if it means injuring himself in the process. Step behind me." Completely. That will roast you. My scales can handle it. Yours cannot. Do it. Gorith inhaled deeply, his chest glowing orange with internal heat. Then he exhaled everything, a wave of fire that washed across half the arena. Rethian spread his wings and curled his body around Daniel, creating a living shield. The fire was intense, more than Gorith should have been able to produce. It was desperation made manifest, burning away everything including his own energy reserves. When the flames cleared, Rethian's scales were scorched and smoking, but intact. Daniel was unharmed behind him. Gorith was collapsed on the sand, exhausted from the massive expenditure. Dravik stood uncertain, his partner down and his own injuries hampering movement. Yield, Rethian said to his cousin. You have fought well. There is no shame in yield. But Gorith's eyes held only hate. Never. I will not lose to you. I cannot. He tried to rise, stumbled, and fell again. His body would not respond. He had burned through everything he had and found it was not enough that Gorith's voice rang out. Prince Gorith is unable to continue. The duel is concluded. Victory to Prince Rethian and Cadet Daniel Reed. Stunned silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, some began to applaud. Not everyone. Many still looked disturbed, uncertain what they had just witnessed. But the applause grew. They had seen something impossible. The broken prince had won. Rethian looked up at the royal box. His mother's expression revealed nothing, but she was watching him with absolute focus. He had finally done something she could not ignore. The question was whether she saw success or abomination. 2 hours after the duel ended, Imperial guards summoned Rethian to the Empress's private chambers. His scales still bore scorch marks from Gorith's desperate fire attack. Medical staff had offered treatment, but Rethian refused. Better to face his mother, showing the cost of victory than to hide it. Daniel tried to accompany him, but the guards refused. Only the prince has been summoned. Empress Valsha sat in the center of the chamber, her presence filling the space like a physical force. She was larger than most dragons, her black scales marked with silver that denoted age and authority. Her eyes held the weight of 10,000 years of imperial history. Kneel, she commanded. Rethian knelt, keeping his head lowered. Look at me. He raised his eyes to meet hers. For a long moment, she simply studied him, her expression unreadable. When you were hatched, the court physicians told me you were weak, smaller than your brothers, slower to develop. I kept you alive because royal blood has value even when diluted. I sent you here believing you would fail quickly and I could quietly remove you from the succession line without controversy. She paused. You were supposed to fail. I apologize for surviving, Mother. Do not be flippant. What I witnessed today disturbs me greatly. You won a formal duel without fighting. You relied entirely on that human to execute combat while you hid behind scales and gave instructions. This contradicts everything our empire is built upon. It worked, Rethian said quietly. We won. Yes, you won. That is precisely what disturbs me. Valsha stood and began pacing. For millennia, our strength has been individual warrior prowess. Every dragon learns to fight alone because that is our nature. We are apex predators. We do not need coordination because we are each dangerous enough without it. Your method suggests that approach is inferior. Not inferior. Incomplete. The Empress's eyes narrowed dangerously. Explain. Rethian chose his words carefully. Draconid warriors are formidable alone. But imagine an army where each warrior had someone like me coordinating their movements, predicting enemy actions, optimizing strike patterns. Imagine combining our natural advantages with strategic thinking and real-time tactical adjustment. We would be unstoppable. We are already unstoppable. Then why do smaller species occasionally defeat us? Why do conflicts drag on when our power should end them quickly? Because we fight as individuals who happen to share a battlefield. We do not fight as true integrated forces. Valsha was silent for a long moment. The War Council will never accept this. They will say you are trying to make warriors soft, that you are teaching dragons to doubt their instincts. I am not asking them to accept it immediately. I am asking for permission to prove it works consistently. Let Daniel and I continue as we are. If we fail future trials, then tradition is validated. If we succeed, perhaps others will see value in different approaches. You asked me to let you continue being weak. I ask you to let me continue being what I actually am instead of trying to force me into something I can never be. Rethian met his mother's eyes directly. You have two other sons who are perfect traditional warriors. Let them be that. Let me be something else, something the Empire needs, but does not yet know it needs. The Empress turned away, looking out the window at the Academy ground below. Your human spoke to the War Council while you were being treated. He was remarkably bold for something so small. He told them that Earth's military succeeds because they use specialists. Engineers, medics, pilots, infantry, intelligence officers. Each type has different skills. Each type is essential. He suggested the Draconid Empire is handicapping itself by demanding every warrior be identical. What did the council say? Half wanted to throw him out an airlock for insolence. The other half could not argue with his logic, which made them angry in a different way. Valshaw turned back to face him. I'm going to do something unprecedented. I am creating a new role within the Imperial military structure. Strategic Coordinator. Someone who guides warriors but does not necessarily fight directly. You will be the first to hold this title. If you succeed in future trials and eventually in real combat, others like you will have a path forward. If you fail, the position will be eliminated and you will be exiled as originally planned. Rethian felt his chest tighten with something between hope and terror. You are giving me a chance. I'm giving you rope to either climb or hang yourself. Do not waste it. She gestured dismissal. Return to your training. The Academy is extending your trials. You will face scenarios specifically designed to test whether your method has genuine value or was simply lucky against Gortha's pride. Rethian stood and bowed deeply. Thank you, Mother. Do not thank me yet. What comes next will be harder than anything you have faced. The War Council is not convinced. The traditional families are actively hostile to your approach. You will have enemies working against you at every step. And if real combat comes, you will face opponents who will not be as predictable as training scenarios. She was right, of course. Victory in one duel did not change an entire military culture. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall of tradition that had trapped him his entire life. Rethian found Daniel waiting outside the royal chambers. The human looked up as he emerged. Well, we continue. With official support, though not necessarily official approval. Daniel smiled. Good enough. Let us see how much we can accomplish before they decide to stop us. They walked back toward the cadet quarters together. Around them, other cadets watched with mixed expressions. Some showed respect. Others showed contempt. A few showed curiosity, wondering if perhaps this strange partnership had discovered something valuable. That night, Rethian stood on the balcony of his quarters, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued spinning, full of dangers and opportunities. The Draconid Empire had ruled through strength for 10,000 years. Maybe for the next 10,000, they would rule through strength and strategy combined, or maybe Rethian would fail, prove the traditionalists right, and become a cautionary tale told to future cadets about why they should never question established ways. Either way, he was finally being allowed to try. Finally being seen as something other than a broken version of what dragons should be. Daniel had given him that gift, showing him that different types of strength existed and all had value. The human had traveled across the galaxy and somehow managed to teach an empire of dragons something they had forgotten over thousands of years of dominance. That true strength was not found in claws or fire alone, but in knowing yourself, accepting what you are, and using your actual capabilities rather than mourning the ones you lacked. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new challenges, new opportunities to prove that the Broken Prince had finally found where his real strength lived. Not in fighting despite his nature, but in embracing it and turning perceived weakness into unprecedented advantage. Rethian smiled, feeling genuinely hopeful for the first time in his life. The future was uncertain, But it was finally his to shape rather than simply endure, and that made all the difference.